Hello journalist, I now want to show you how you're going to import audio files that you created in Voice Record Pro and put them into your podcast here. All right, this is super important that you made sure that in Voice Record Pro that you hit the option that says Save to iCloud Drive and that you've named it something easily recognizable, that you just didn't use the default setting, all right? You want to make sure that if it's an interview with, Mr. Baber, that you name it Interview with Mr. Baber in Voice Record Pro and save it as that so it's easy to find. All right? So how do we do that? Well, first, you'll notice that we've been working on just one track here, and you notice that I've had added a couple things here. I still have my podcast intro and my episode topic intro with background, but you'll notice that I've done a scripted portion here to introduce my first guest here, which is Mr. Bodensteiner. So I've called that Mr. B introduction, as you can see there. Okay. So now I've kind of set that up. All right. Now I want to actually import that file where it had Mr. B's interview that I've done. All right. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to hit this plus button in the bottom left-hand corner. Okay. And I'm going to want to hit audio recorder so that now I have an extra audio track. Okay, so when I go back into the editing, right, hit that Tetris button, you'll now notice that I have two audio recording tracks here, and I can toggle between the two by simply just clicking on the microphone icon. Okay, so how do I now get my audio file off of Voice Record Pro? All right, so easy. We're going to hit this little loop, this little roller coaster loop in the top right-hand corner. All right, it's going to go out of focus for a second, but I'm going to bring it back in. Okay. There we go. All right, and you're not going to have any files in here. In fact, I'm going to delete all these so it'll look exactly like yours. Okay, so it'll look blank. Okay, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to browse items down here, this only blue button that you have. All right, and you're going to have to make sure that you're browsing in your iCloud Drive. All right, so you're going to make sure that you select that, and hopefully then you'll see that you've saved some of your Voice Record Pro interviews to the iCloud. So let's go and check that out. And you'll notice that I have several of those, all right, that I've named that are easy to get for me to kind of identify. All right, so I got Mr. Bodensteiner, Mr. Dugan. Looks like I interviewed Lessing's head chef last year, but I want Mr. Bodensteiner's interview so that I can integrate that. So how do I do that? Well, let me click on that file, and in a moment you'll see that it'll appear right there as a music file. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm simply just going to click. All right, and drag it out into the second icon. Ready? Click and drag it out. Great. All right, and now it's populated in there. But you'll notice if I play it right now, they're overlapping and it'll sound horrible. Let's just listen to a couple seconds.
So thanks for sitting down and talking. A podcast devoted to covering academic issues.
Right, they're overlapping. All right, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to drag this to the end, all right, and I'll perfectly line it up, all right? And that way, now it won't sound, like it won't be overlapping, which will be nice. All right, so you'll notice that I think I've told you before, most of your interviews, though, are maybe 8, 9, 10 minutes long, all right? And you may not need all 8, 9, 10 minutes. For this section here, I only need about 30 seconds. I had to go back and listen and find the section I needed. But I only need about 30 seconds of the audio here. And notice you'll hear when I cut it all together that I'm not manipulating the information. I'm not editing out the most important things. I'm not taking things out of context. What I'm simply doing is just taking the most relevant information that Mr. Bodensteiner shared with me, all right? And in my scripted format there, I've simply just introduced what he said. I'm not interpreting what he said. I'm not changing what he said. I'm simply just presenting portions of what he said to get his point across, and I'm only choosing about 30 seconds or so. And I would say that's a pretty good thing unless it's a discussion, right? So how do I edit this down? Okay, so simple. I determined that I only need, okay, I'm going to scroll way out. The clip that I need actually begins around 132. So let me get close to around 132. Okay, I'm going to zoom way in to make sure I'm close. Okay, I think the portion I need, it starts with like schools. Okay, so let me listen in.
Home, but teachers, I'm gonna say, just from my conversations with a lot of English teachers in my career, they're not readers themselves.
Yeah, okay, so that's where I need it. So let's go back, and I think it's around here. And it helps to kind of look at the audio where he kind of began. Let me see.
But teachers, I'm gonna say, just from my conversation,
I think a little.
the context in which they should be exploring. Yes, this needs to be supported.
Let's see.
Are not reading for pleasure, or so few of them are reading for pleasure. And I just think it's because school...
There it is, right when he says schools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this down. I don't need this first part right now, so I'm going to actually edit, split, cut. All right, and although this is going to be painful, all right, I don't need that first part of the interview. Boom. All right, let me get to the part that I do need now. Here we go.
School is the context in which they should be exploring. Yes, this needs to be supported at home, but teachers, I'm gonna say, just from my conversations with a lot of English teachers in my career, they're not readers themselves. So like that, the love of reading is not passed on in the classroom, and that's like, that's a real bummer. I think I myself need to do better in terms of reading what the kids are reading, and I've challenged myself to, even this month, try to read more books than I ever have to kind of align with that goal.
All right, so I don't want to cut into me, so I'm actually going to get rid of right about there. Okay, remember, if I make a mistake, I can just undo it. That's okay. So again, I'm going to make another cut. Click, click, split, boom. All right. Let's get rid of this other portion that I don't need. So I'm only using what I need. Okay, boom. Delete. Okay, and now this little portion that I need, I can either line up here, okay, or now I can just simply integrate it into that second line. Okay, watch. Drag it up now, and now let's see how that listens all together. Okay, we're not going to listen to the whole podcast, but we'll listen to my introduction and then the audio clip to see how it all feeds in. Okay? Let's start right about there.
Members to get their perspectives on what they think may be some of the possible reasons students are not or do not want to read what is being assigned to them, and also explored possible solutions to motivate students to read what is assigned to them. My first guest is Mr. Braden Bodensteiner, who teaches 7th and 8th grade English classes at McQuaid Jesuit Middle School. Mr. Bodensteiner believes that maybe it's not the students to blame for a decrease in reading, but that schools have failed to foster a culture of reading themselves, starting with the teachers. Mr. Bodensteiner asserts that if the teachers are not modeling and practicing strong reading habits, then why should the students feel motivated to do something their adult instructors are not?
School is the context in which they should be exploring. Yes, this needs to be supported at home, but teachers, I'm gonna say, just from my conversations with a lot of English teachers in my career, they're not readers themselves. So like that, the love of reading is not passed on in the classroom, and that's like, that's a real bummer. I think I myself need to do better in terms of reading what the kids are reading, and I've challenged myself to, even this month, try to